Greetings and welcome to Talk About It Wednesdays, a member driven conversation on topics that matter most to our members. And our members wanted to have a discussion on mental health and self care, especially during the holiday season. So, this episode is Peace of Mind, prioritizing your mental health this holiday season. Before we begin, we want to set some ground rules for tonight's discussion. We are recording this virtual podcast session, and it is being broadcast through Facebook Live on the UAW Women's Facebook page. We ask that participants be kind and respectful of this space. Have a question related to tonight's topic? Drop it in the comments section, and we will ask the guest during the Q&A segment. Note, if you have questions that we are unable to answer during the episode, we will do our best to review them and provide feedback in the days following this event. It is our intention that this discussion will be beneficial for everyone. Tonight's episode will be moderated by UAW Women's Department and Region 1 Director LaShawn English, a powerhouse in the labor movement who has built her path from the ground up, tools in hand and purpose in heart. Director English began her union journey in the skilled trades, earning her journeyman's card as a steam fitter and licensed plumber through United Association Building Trades Local 370. Her commitment to craft, community, and collective power led her to UAW Local 1264 at the Stellantis Sterling Stamping Plant, where she broke barriers and built solidarity, serving in several roles from election committee to recording secretary to the Regional Women's Advisory Council, all leadership roles that led up to her being the first woman of color elected president of Local 1264, where she served 3 terms. Her union journey is paved in experience, gained as a skilled trades delegate and national negotiator to a champion for working women and workers across sectors. In 2022, she made her story once again, becoming the first woman and first woman of color elected director of UAW Region 1. Director English is a leader who brings the grit of the trades, the heart of a fighter, and a vision for a stronger, more inclusive labor movement. We are thrilled to be joined by our guest expert, Dr. Kathy Barton Brown, a licensed psychotherapist who has been in the mental health field for over 40 years and in private practice for 20 years. Dr. Kathy holds an MSW, LMSW, ACSW, and PhD. She attended the University of Michigan and graduated in 1985 with a bachelor's degree in psychology and criminal justice. Desiring to further her education, she attended Wayne State and graduated with a master's in social work in May 1993. Kathy united with Dr. Ruben West in March 2017 and was published in 2017 with Dr. West in Live Your Best Life, The Time Is Now. In October 2017, her undying dedication to empower people, especially women, led to her being nominated and receiving an honorary PhD in humanities from United Graduate Seminary. She was appointed by Dr. HRH Clyde Rivers as a global ambassador for civility and received the Statesman National Award and the International Award for Leadership. Dr. Kathy's undying passion is empowering African Americans to be aware of their issues, childhood traumas, and personal emotional pain, and she enjoys traveling internationally to speak on the topic. She has also been in broadcasting for over 48 years and thoroughly enjoys media as a tool to promote her mission of reversing the curse of dysfunctional relationships. She has a true desire to see people transformed and delivered from the mental torture of childhood traumas and self-inflicted condemnation. As such, her motto is inspiring people to help themselves. Dr. Kathy's therapeutic approach is a unique combination of words of wisdom sprinkled with practical interventions, warmth, humor, and acceptance. It is her belief that we are all a work in progress. Therefore, her environment is always a no judgment zone.
Hello, everyone. And first, let me start by bringing greetings from UAW Women's Department Director LaShawn English. I am Shantae Sanders Beasley, Assistant Director of the Women's Department, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I will temporarily be sitting in as your host while Director English is out on business. Today's topic, well, first of all, welcome to another episode of Talk About It Wednesdays. Today's topic is peace of mind, prioritizing your mental health during this holiday season. The holidays bring on a lot of emotions. We celebrate, we're happy, we have connections with our family, and we experience joy. For some folks, they experience depression, exhaustion, stress, and even loneliness. Today, we're going to talk about what it really means to care for your mind and your spirit during this holiday season. Joining me for this conversation is our special guest, Dr. Kathy Barton Brown, a licensed psychotherapist and clinical social worker, a passionate advocate for mental wellness and self-care. Welcome, Dr. Brown.
Oh, thank you.
I want to say thank you for coming. It means a lot to us that you showed up, and especially to speak about a topic like this, because it is so important for our listeners to hear some of the things that they can do to cope during the holiday seasons. So let's get started. When you hear the phrase peace of mind, especially during the holidays, what does that mean to you personally?
Peace of mind for me personally means the inner state of being content, where external things are not rattling your cage or have you all up in anxiety or anxious moments, that you literally can sit down and relax because you're not overwhelmed with thoughts and rapid thoughts hitting you can sit down and be still and be good.
So basically what you're saying is we need to take the time and just breathe. I think that's some of the conversation that you and I had prior to this broadcast, where sometimes we get so wrapped up in things that are going on around us that we don't take the opportunity to just breathe and relax so that we can center ourselves.
That is so true. There are so many women that if you ask them, do you remember the last time that you stopped and took a breath? They can't tell you because we're so busy taking care of everyone else. And if we don't take care of ourselves, the whole thing falls apart. So we will go down like a one-egg pudding if we don't take care of ourselves.
So it is important to practice self-care.
Very important to practice self-care and to find your place of peace.
So that's something I know I need to work on, and I would encourage our listeners, like Dr. Brown said, try to find your place of peace as we navigate through this holiday season. In your experience, what are some of the largest mental health challenges people face as the holiday season approaches, especially for people trying to balance work, family, and community obligation?
I think the greatest challenge is trying to meet the expectations of everyone else. Your children have expectations of you. You know, your parents may have expectations. You have to come and cook. Your spouse may have expectations. But it's okay to put boundaries and limits on the expectations. And so when we feel like we have to run here, run there, the hustle, the bustle, and I think we talk about the hustle, bustle a little later, but understanding that we drive the vehicle. Nobody else is going to drive it. And so we make the decisions on how much we're going to participate, on how much we're going to put in, on whether or not we're going to do everything, or we're just going to do select things. And it's okay, whatever we decide, to make sure that we keep that inner peace.
I was reading your bio, and you have a lot of ABCs behind your name. So can you give me a story or an example of how you were able to keep that balance as you navigated through, you know, from the beginning to where you are now?
Staying focused. But one of the things that I actually live by is major in the majors. I don't waste a lot of time on petty arguments, on petty discussions, on drama, on chaos. And my daughter laughs about the older you get, the less patient you are. And I said, no, it's not that I'm less patient. I don't put up with a lot of junk. I feel like my time should be calculated on things that are important. And too many times, if you listen to conversations, it's all major and minors. No, major in the majors. What are you going to do to impact the lives of the people around you? What are you going to do to make sure that you're in the healthiest space that you can be in? What are you going to do to help the people across the street who are struggling? You know, being a humanitarian and taking care of the big things and not focusing on those little things.
So basically, pick your battles
Pick your battles.
and learn that one word sentence. No.
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 And no is a complete sentence all by
No.
itself. And it's very uncomfortable for people who have been codependent, though. Because if you grew up in the household and you had the role of the caretaker, taking care of everybody else, and in dysfunctional homes, the kids oftentimes become codependent because they want the attention of the parents, but they don't know how to ask for it. So they will act out. Because to a kid, attention is attention. If I can't get your attention because I'm good, or I'm cleaning up everything, or I'm getting all A's, then I will start acting out to get your attention. You know, so making sure that you have those boundaries and don't become that person that feels like you got to fix everything and everyone.
So you just mentioned boundaries. And I know a lot of us have issues or have problems with being able to set boundaries. So can you give me some ideas on, I mean, especially with our kids, you know, it's hard to set boundaries, and then you find yourself, like you said, all over the place because we didn't set those boundaries, because it's so hard to set those boundaries. So how can we do better about, again, no, and setting those boundaries?
I think it's important with kids to start very early. And if a child does not learn how to accept no, they will not know how to accept yes. No is going to be a part of their life. And so we teach them at home, when I say no, I mean no. And if you throw a fit, my daughters, both of them were chatters. They talked a lot. And so they would always say, Mom, can I have this? And I said, let me think about it. If they interrupted my thinking and asked me again, I've got to start all over thinking about it. It's going to take longer now. So it was teaching them to have self-discipline to wait until I gave them an answer. And so if they didn't do that, we could play that game all day long, all week long, to teach the lesson. So teaching the lesson to have boundaries. Now, the other thing, here's the question you always want to ask. If helping you hurts me, it's beyond the boundary.
Okay, I
If,
like that.
if buying you the game is going to hurt my budget, it's out of I can't even entertain it.
So that would be something we would need to practice during the holiday seasons.
Yes.
Especially when we start talking about our expenses, because typically after the season, you know, we've exhausted all of our funds. So now we're tackling the problem that we created for ourselves. So we need to learn to set that boundary,
Set the boundary.
prior to going into the holiday season.
And it's okay to say, you get one gift. You get one gift within this budget, because we're not going $1,000 gifts, $500 gifts. I was talking to a lady, and she said, I'm buying my daughter an $800 go-kart for Christmas. I said, in Michigan in the winter? What is she going to do with that in the wintertime in Michigan? Why not put $400, $500 in an account for her and buy her something that's more reasonable that she could play with now? You know, and I think that we have overindulged our children so much. You look at them by the middle of Christmas Day, they're done playing with the toy and they've lost interest in it. You know, how about going back to simple things as a family? Let's make a craft project. Let's make blankets that mean something to us. Let's make cards for a nursing home. Those things that will bring value and help them understand that there are people who get nothing for Christmas.
Well, I know I'm going to set some boundaries. And I would encourage our audience to do the same as we flow through these holiday seasons. At this time, we're going to take a break. And after the break, we will have the lovely Director English.
Well, welcome back. The AD, Shantae, was doing just a great job here. And hopefully she's going to do some time management on her holiday shopping that I broke into here. I'm hoping. We're going to see. But again, so welcome again.
Thank you.
So we got a question here. It says, so many of us try to do everything during the holiday season, like shopping, which I heard you guys talk about, hosting, attending events, and still try to fulfill our obligations. How can you explain to someone and recognize the signs that they are overextending themselves? And what are some healthy ways to take it back and step back?
I think it's important to know the signs your body gives you when you're tired. Like if my eye twitch, that means I got too much on my mind. If my bones in my face hurt, that means I'm physically tired. So it allows me to say, okay, I got to pull back. And no matter what's going on, unless it's something critical, I go to my shelter and into my hole. And my kids laugh and say, when you go in the hole, you don't come out for anything. That's right, because that is my time to reset and refresh. But one of the things that I have learned to do as I get older, because I'm a woman of a particular age, and so I have learned it's okay to get help for the holiday season. So for this Thanksgiving, I'm not cooking everything. My daughter's going to cook some dishes. I have friends that are wonderful cooks, so I'm going to get dressing from one. I'm going to get a banana pudding from another. I'm going to call honey baked ham. And so getting, we used to call it cheating.
Right.
Well, I'm going to not only cheat, I'm going to make it very good, but I won't be exhausted. We do so much time and energy into cooking this elaborate meal that we're too exhausted to even enjoy our family. The goal is to make memories. We make memories because one day that's all we'll have. We won't have those people there. And so if we're too exhausted to engage and have fun and play games and share laughter with them, then what good are we?
But I think that's what causes the stress, right?
Yes.
So, but you say you're a woman of a certain age.
am.
But how long did it take you to get there, though? Because I would say this, a lot of women, when they see a twitching of the eye or the cheeks and stuff, we don't recognize these symptoms. So, I mean, and how do you actually, what kind of tools or what kind of, like, advice would you give them to recognize some of these things? Because again, you're a woman of a certain age, and it took you a while. Because did you just decide to do it this holiday season, or how long you been doing it?
No.
Where
I've been
everybody's
doing
bringing
this
a dish.
Oh, no, I've been doing this for a while.
Okay.
I'm 63, and for probably since I was 50, I
Okay.
have been delegating.
Okay.
And I taught both girls how to cook.
Okay, but see,
And-
that was work. That's what I'm trying to say. So you
Right.
create some work, and it was a plan that one day you decided. So for like the women that's out there that's stressing, you know, the need to do it, because it's actually sometimes you do it because you want to please your family.
Right.
Right? Or you think no one else can cook better than
Right.
you, or you go.
Well-
So, I mean, because isn't that what you taught your daughter? So now you know the food going to be perfect, right?
Well, yeah, but it's more so about taking the load off.
Yes.
So it may not taste like yours, but you live.
Right.
You know.
So you
And-
got some tools, like something, how do you
So-
actually do that then?
So what I do, and even back at 50, I started making a list. I make a list way before the holiday. I talk to everybody, what do you want on the menu? Okay, then you cook that. Well, okay, and what do you want? Okay, well, we're going to get Sharon to make that and start delegating and splitting it up, because when we have full lives, if we don't stop and take care of ourselves, we will not be around long term.
True.
And so helping them to understand this is going to preserve my quality of life, and you want me to be here. You know, because our kids get so accustomed to us doing everything that they just sit, pick their teeth, play their games, you know, and is dinner ready? No, get it. I need you to come help me. So understand it becomes a team effort, not a mom effort.
Okay.
Along the way. And so when I got tired, and what happened with me is I was affected by the water crisis.
Okay.
And so I was down 7 months because of almost passing away from the water crisis. So even laying on my bed, on my back, I was planning things, and I couldn't cook. So I had to come up with other solutions. But then coming up with those other solutions felt really good. It really felt good. So I decided I'm not doing it anymore. Now, if I decide I just want to have some people over, then I'll put the effort in. But to put the pressure on myself that I have to do it, I don't have any more have tos.
But
Especially
you still
when
said it took you a while to get there.
Yes.
So what would be a road to getting other people there? You know what I mean? What would be a road to actually saying, do we have like a plan? Because like, I get it, as you get older, a lot of things do change. You get more mature. But I mean, for someone who's not, even someone that's not even got there, what would be something, I guess in my mind, like for me, I like to cook. I do like to cook this part, and I'm super busy. But what would be understanding the stress, the signs and stuff? What would be something that I need to notice about myself or our listeners? So,
believe it or not, it may go back to childhood.
okay.
It may go back to this is what you're expected to do, and if you don't, then you're a bad person. You're a valuable person if you do this. And so as we grow, we learn our value is not tied to external things. It comes from the inside. And so I don't have to appease and please people. Now that takes time to get there, and oftentimes therapy. But we don't want to actually pursue therapy because we have so much distrust of people, even in our families. You know, so go talk to a stranger. So what I tell people, if you're going to go to a therapist, act like you're shoe shopping. Now, I can only speak as a black woman. And if I'm going to go shoe shopping, my shoes are going to fit. They may hurt for 2 hours for a wedding, but I'm not going to wear them longer than that. So if you go to get a therapist and it's not a good fit, you have every right to go to another person. So taking care of your mental health and understanding if that person violates your trust, the penalty is $250,000 per incident and or 10 years in jail, and you lose your license. So when people know that's the penalty, they become a little more relaxed and going to talk to someone. And I tell every person that come in my office what the penalty is.
I don't think most of us know that. I'm gonna be totally honest. I mean, I'm like sitting here in shock because. So, are you saying if I don't trust them or something happened, why would I report them?
If they tell your business,
Okay.
if they, and the only time they can tell your business if you say you're going to hurt yourself, if you have a plan to hurt someone else, or if you say that old woman, that nosy woman across the street, I'm going to eliminate her because I'm tired of her nosiness, or that little bad butt kid that lives next door, I'm sick of that little bad boy, I'm going to do something to him.
Okay.
Other than that, your information cannot be shared.
Okay.
And so when we know that, but taking care of and going back and addressing the wounds.
Right.
Because a lot of times we operate on overexhaustion because we got all these wounds. And so if I stay busy, I don't have to think about what I'm hurting about on the inside. Do you know that during COVID, alcohol consumption went up 400%? Because people had to stay home and deal with the things on the inside that they never dealt with? And so we had more alcohol deliveries than food deliveries because people needed to deal with the pain. And most of us carry so much pain and we try to stuff it in little pockets. So dealing with our pain to say, I deserve to have peace. I deserve to have some downtime. I deserve to make choices about my life without the expectations of other people.
And that's good, but I mean, say if I don't want to physically go see a therapist, what would you think my first start would be, though? Let's be honest. I mean, because
Self-help books.
so self-help book will be one you think that people should first indulge. Do you have any good books that like would say, okay, what's a good self-help book that you know right offhand?
A good self-help book is Healing the Inner Child.
Okay.
That's a real good
Because
one.
normally it's the inner child that creates the trauma of what some of the things we do, right?
And then the inner child goes out and meet a person who also has a wounded inner child. So now they do a trauma bond, and then they wonder why they're so dysfunctional.
Okay. And what would be another thing? If I don't want to go to therapy, do you suggest group therapy or?
Group therapy is wonderful because you get a chance to hear other stories and you realize your story is not so odd. Your story is actually pretty normal because when you listen to, like, I oftentimes have to send people to partial hospitalization day treatment.
Okay.
And they may be resistant initially, but once they get in there and hear, oh man, your father abused you, my father abused me too. Or, oh wow, your mom died early, my mom died. And you begin to identify with people and say, okay, so I'm not crazy. I really am having this experience and these experiences because of what I've been through. And we come here as a clean slate, but the things that are written on us, even by the time we're 10, the bullying in school, you want to know how we can eradicate bullying? if we teach every child to appreciate who they are. If every child loved themselves, they wouldn't go to school and pick on other children.
Wow. I always say hurt people hurt other people. Wow. And then that brings on hurt to someone down the line.
Exactly. But when you have teachers who have issues, I had a college counselor tell me I was not college material. And when I graduated the first, the second, and the third time, I tried to fight her every single time because I just wanted her to see, I guess I am college material.
Right. Ain't that something?
It is.
It's
We
very
believe
something.
the negative things that people tell us. For every negative thought that we get, it takes 5 to 10 positive thoughts to wipe out one negative thought.
Say that again. Repeat that. Look at this camera and repeat that. I really do. I want people to know that because people don't realize that.
For every negative comment and thought that has been sent your way, it takes 5 to 10 positive thoughts to wipe out one negative thought. And most of us do not get that much positivity coming back to us. We just get more negative. Even family members.
Of course.
I had a family member that told me at 8 years old, you would be nothing. And she's still around, but her soul was so contaminated in her childhood. And so she passes it on, not even understanding the damage that she's causing. But it's okay to change generation and cycles. You don't have to stay in them.
And that's important. Though. People don't realize that. It's breaking the cycle.
Breaking
or
the cycle.
breaking the abuse or breaking the whatever caused you to be that person. It's okay. It's okay to be not okay.
Right.
And I think it's not okay to talk to a friend. That's not okay.
Right.
I think that's some of the problem in this. Is like if you're hanging around negative people, and of course you're gonna, like you say, you need that many positive thoughts.
But when you're accustomed to negative people, my grandmother was a negative person. I mean, my godmother would laugh about when she would pull up and park, you could hear her fussing before she even got out of the car. And all the way up the sidewalk, all the way to the door. And even when she got in the house, she would just fuss. So what I decided as a little girl, I would never be a fussing woman because I hated it. And that's how you change generations. I don't like that I don't get enough attention. That's how my mom felt. I didn't get enough attention from my mother. So at 10 years old, she said, if I ever have children, I'm going to make sure they know that they're loved and they're hugged and kisses. And that's exactly what she did. She broke the cycle. So we're all huggy bears, all of us.
Okay, okay. That's good because, like I said, during the holidays, with the hustle, the bustle, and just, you and Shantae said, I heard you say, don't spend the money or the gifts and stuff, don't put that much pressure. But what other emotional, I guess I'll say this, what other emotional thing that you think that a person could do to their kids? Because I think a lot of times, a lot of single mothers, they're compensating for maybe someone else is not in their kids' life. So that causes, the hustle and bustle, and then to work a lot of hours. I know you say we should take a break for ourselves, but still, there's still that peer pressure to still do it.
It's a peer pressure to do it, but my mom was actually a battered woman.
Okay.
And we were rescued by the police when I was 18 months old, and my brother was 24. He was 2 years old.
Okay.
And even though my brother was never around another angry man, he grew up to be a batterer. Because that experience was already on the inside of him. And my mom had a nervous breakdown for 6 months because he pulled a sawed-off shotgun on her nose 8 hours, saying, I'm going to blow your head off. And so it was so much pressure, she snapped. But when she came back with a mission and a purpose. And so we spent all the rest of the years bonding. I mean, we had Christmases where we didn't have any money, but you know what we had? We had family, we had love, we're gonna have a basket on the table with fruit and nuts. We knew we were, and a good meal. We didn't have to have gifts because the gift was love, the gift was family, the gift was presence. She was very present in our life. And even when she was working, she would work third shift so she could be present all day long. So she did the sacrifice, and then she decided she was going to go to school. It took her 6 years to get a 2-year degree because she refused to stop. We lived in the projects, but she never told us it was projects because she didn't want us to have project mentality. But what she did, because she was a battered woman, our house became a haven for women who were in bad relationships. And she taught women how to drive. She taught women how to cook. She taught them how to can. She taught them how to sew. So her friend said, Carol, why are you sewing? She said, need more. Need more what? Need more clothes. Because she had a solution for it. So many times we get stuck on the problems and not the solutions.
So she seemed like she was self-taught, though, because for
She
her to have a
was.
mental breakdown. So she just one day, I mean, did she seek help? I mean, I know you said she had a mental health, so that must have really helped her when she went there.
She was surrounded by strong women. There were older
she had a
women
she had her
who
circle.
took her under their wing.
Okay.
And it wasn't my grandmother, because my grandmother was focused on working in cold, which
Okay.
is why she wanted to be warm and affectionate. But she literally, before she even got her 2-year degree, the state hired her, and she became a social worker. And this is how you give back. I was sitting on my first real job, and a lady looked at me and said, are you kin to Carol Barton? Do you know her? And my mom had just passed away, and I said, yeah. I said, she was my mom. The lady started crying and thought, oh, God, what did my mom say to the woman? She said, it's because of your mother that I have this job. She said, your mother became my social worker when my husband left me with 4 kids and I had no education. And she went in her pockets and she gave money to me to buy all of my kids' school clothes, all of their school supplies, and she made me make one promise, that I would not stop going to school until I got my master's degree. And because I got my master's degree, I got this job. That came from a woman who started with nothing. That came from a woman who refused to be defeated even during the holidays. Holidays are what we make them. They don't tell us what to do.
You gotta say that again.
Holidays
You
are
gotta
what we
say it.
make
I
them.
need you to say that to the camera because
You
again,
said-
because we create that pressure. But I want you to repeat that again.
Holidays are what we make them. Holidays don't make us. We determine what we're going to do for the holiday, and it's perfectly okay to change traditions. You can keep some, you can create some new ones, but you do traditions that are not overwhelming for you.
Yes.
Like, I'll never forget, we went to a homeless shelter on Christmas Day, and it changed my life. I was 15. It changed my life because I still had the assumption that everybody had big feasts like we did. And to see little kids in a shelter who did not have any food, it broke my heart. But it really helped me to be humble. Because all that we have so much. And gratitude keeps me grounded.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Because one thing you just said, you was living in the project and didn't know you was in the project.
Right.
So couldn't that have been shocking that you when somebody had less than you and you didn't even know you was in the project?
I didn't even
you
know.
didn't even know you. So that means your mom took the point of making you think differently.
It was brand new apartments. That's all we knew.
See, and didn't know you was living in the project.
And didn't know it was a project until I got older, and I was like, oh, we lived in the projects.
Right. So yeah, so
It's a
you went
mindset.
somewhere, and you went to somewhere that somebody didn't have anything, and somebody probably was giving you guys food baskets because people don't realize that.
Right.
People don't realize that someone else may have been giving you a food basket.
We got old newsboys every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still stop on that Friday and give them money because we got old newsboys baskets every year.
I'm laughing because my mom used to bring home the dials for the old newsboys. And I was mad because I couldn't get this dial. And I'm like, why are you doing this for other kids? And I think she was like, this is what you got to do.
Yeah.
You have to give back, you know.
Yes.
And I think that what brings the joy and that was less stressful. But I mean, for me, I was giving her the stress. I was giving my mom the business. Me and my sister bought some old news. And she looked like, are y'all serious?
Right.
You know, and even then my mom would make us go with other people who needed things.
Yeah.
And she didn't, you know, she wanted us to see it. So, but she always said we couldn't take the gifts from Santa Claus. To me, that was stressful. I'm just gonna be totally honest. That was stressful because people gotta remember though, we still kids.
Right.
And kids gotta be treated equally no matter where
Right.
you go because they don't know there's a difference that
Right.
that kid is in need. And so I think sometimes that did create some stress as I got older because I was like, this is, you know, I never wanted a kid to be without a gift.
Right.
And I thought, like, I always give. So it makes it, it's,
I think
like you said.
giving ourselves permission to make it simple.
Yes, yes.
We can make it, you still can have a wonderful time making it simple. And I mean, when I think back on childhood, it's the Friday night game nights we had, you know, playing Scrabble, Monopoly. I still remember the day I was 9 years old and beat my mom in Scrabble.
Oh,
But that's what it's about, making
Yes,
memories.
making memories.
Making memories, you know,
and
the
not
games,
stress.
not
Spending
stress.
the time with the family, enjoying the moment, be in the moment.
Right.
be in the moment.
Taking the pictures. Because I look back on pictures now and I'm so grateful that I have them. Because I was so young when my mom left, and I'm glad that she was a picture taking person. But when people leave and transition, so we have a choice. We can make Thanksgiving and Christmas heavy because Uncle Bobo's not here and Granny's not here. Or we can say, I'm really going to celebrate. Granny really loved to play cards, y'all. Get the cards out. We're going to play cards and we're going to remember Granny. Oh, we got to put the U of M on the tree because Uncle Bobo was a U of M fan. Making sure to create the memories, but with joy. Yeah, it's okay to have joy when they've gone. They don't expect us to just roll around on the floor weeping and crying. Life still goes on. So you can remember them and still have joy.
That's great. So what's the self-care that you would recommend though? For, what self-care would you recommend during the holidays especially?
I think mental health and taking the time for you. We think of self-care oftentimes, I'm going to get my hair done, I'm going to go to the spa. But for me, mental health and self-care is a nap in the afternoon.
That's good.
Because I never gave myself permission to take naps in the afternoon. I'm hopping, I'm popping, I got this to do, and I'm what they call administrator. So I have a list of things I got to check off for the day. And I start in the morning. Okay, so giving myself in the middle of the day to stop and say, hey, you're tired. It's like I started out in November with no events. I ended up with 16 events. So taking the day on my day off to say, I don't care who called. Even when my kids were young and I worked in psych emergency, that was fun. And I would come home and I trained my girls that mom needs 30 to 60 minutes. So I would go in my room and I would regroup. And I would tell them, do not knock on the door unless there's a fire, someone's bleeding, or someone's not breathing. Other than that, let me have this up to an hour. And so I trained them early that it's very important to have balance. And that was part of my balance. So they knew once I came out of the room, it was on. We were going to have fun. We're going to have a good meal. And everything that they need from me would be there.
But it sounds like you had like a good support system. I'm looking at some of these women who don't have that support. Because see, it sounds like your mom actually, like you said, she had something that happened to her and she changed everything, the way the household. So someone who don't have any support system, who kids, like a lot of kids don't have school lunch or they barely making it. I'm busy, I work in 12 hours a day. That's all, what you're saying sound all great, but something I got to be able to do, how much time does this going to take? Because I'm just being honest.
Well, believe it or
cook,
not,
I got to feed, I got to do, this a lot.
I didn't have a support system.
Okay.
I was married and had no support.
Okay.
Okay? So the reality was, I only had me.
Okay.
So I had to train these girls to help me take care of them. So they learned how to make sandwiches very early. Very early. They learned how to put things in the microwave and carefully take them out.
But you know they call CPS real quick around here now.
Well,
back then they may not call, but now these kids will call CPS on you.
Well, I tell you what, I did have one that said,
Okay.
I said, let me give you the number. I want you to memorize the number.
Right.
I'm going to put it on the refrigerator because as good as I am to you and taking care of you, when they come, call them. Because when they come, you're going with them out the door. And maybe you need to talk to your friends just about how good you have it. That was never said again because that was part of taking care of them. That's not beating them. That's not harming them. But what I'm saying is, as a team, as mothers, we have to teach our children and recruit our children to become part of the team. What is best for the team? The best for the team, you learn how to make these sandwiches. Come on and sit down and make the sandwich. The best for the team is you got to learn how to do laundry because mom's working and we need clean clothes, all of us. So I need you to participate in washing clothes. You got to learn how to load the dishwasher. So I think we've become so accustomed to giving them the best of everything. We don't want to teach them the hard part of it has to be balanced. You got to know how to keep your house clean. You got to know how to cook. You got to know how to take care of yourself. What if something happens to me? You won't be able to take care of yourself. So the more self-sufficient you are, it's going to be better for you in the long run, but it's better for the whole household. So all of us can have peace. That makes sense for you all to have peace. I'm the mom working like a dog, but I can have no peace.
Right. And that's the peer pressure, right? That's the pressure you put on yourself.
Right.
So so I would say this out of curiosity. You just have to start telling your kids and accept that they're going to do it and not let them bully you into not doing it,
Right.
right? I
Because-
think a lot of people do allow their kids to just do whatever.
And we carry so much guilt.
Yes.
We carry so much guilt. Now, when I look back, I don't know how grandmothers and great grandmothers did all the stuff they did, because my grandmother was stronger than me at 80. You know, it was just like, can you sit down, woman? Because she just would be doing all kind of stuff. But we are not as strong as our ancestors were. And so we have to make sure that we stop. It's too many of us dying early from stress and being overloaded. And it's okay for our children to learn modesty. You don't have to have all the toys. You don't have to have the newest of everything, because it sets them up to have an expectation that once they become an adult, they expect us to still keep that level.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was happening a lot. I think we are putting expectations on our kids and ourselves and don't realize it's actually more harmful than it is not. I think that is part of the guilt, too. You
We
know what I
were
mean?
we were talking before the podcast started about how kids do gigging. They gig. They will work a job to get a check or two to get the new tennis shoes, to get the new game. And they have not learned sustainability and good work ethic, because we have taught them you can get it right now instead of working for it. I bought a bedroom set at 10 years old, and I worked for it. I sold Avon in the projects until I had enough money, because I wanted the girly canopy with the gingham and I bought it. But I worked hard, knocking on doors, selling Avon, and I went out. They didn't give me the money, and my mom sat me down. This time, no money, no Avon. Every single person, no money, no Avon. Okay, hold on, I'll go get it. And they had the money, But I had good work ethic that was taught to me from my mom and my grandmother. You got to work for what you want. Nobody's going to give it to you, and if they're giving it to you, it's strings attached.
Well, no, that's true. That is true. But how do you deal with the hierarchy of the family past, and that normally does all that? Because that brings this stress on the whole family. What would be something? How would you handle that?
Do you mean in terms of like
the
grandmother?
mama,
Yeah.
Like you said, the mother. Because my father passed he got sick at Thanksgiving, and he actually had a major stroke right at Thanksgiving, and it actually kind of changed how Thanksgiving is for me. I would say that he ended up passing a couple of months later, maybe 6 months later, but it's like
It's different.
It's different. So how do you handle those situations? You brought some of it a little bit by putting little things on the trees, but our membership out here and the people that's listening, that's what because people don't know. There's so many people sitting at home avoiding the holidays, because it is the worst part for them because of things like that.
I'll tell you two things. First, let me ask you a question. What did your dad like to do that gave him great joy?
Eat. He liked
Then you eat.
right. He liked my cooking.
Okay, then you cook. This
Right.
is in celebration and memory of my dad. My mom passed away right after I graduated from U of M. And she was so excited about me graduating, because she challenged, you have to do 1 degree higher than mine when I was 10. So it was 1 degree higher than hers. So her life was fulfilled, and she was good. And I decided that I could make the choice to mourn her on Christmas, which she loved Christmas, or I can make the choice to celebrate and enjoy Christmas like she did. And so I did my entire house in U of M colors, all of my lights, and I couldn't have live trees when I was little because I was allergic. So I had a live tree, I had the U of M everything, and I sat down on the couch and said, Mom, you would be happy. Now, nobody told me those needles were going to come off the tree. It was going to stab me in the foot. So I chunked it over the balcony. But the memory of having this Christmas that I knew she would love. So we make a choice. We don't have to mourn heavily. We can celebrate. We can have joy. And joy literally keeps us afloat. It really is. It releases endorphins. You know, if you ask me, you know, how are you? I say it's a good day. Because every day is a good day when we make a choice for it to be a good day. And one of the things that really helps me and some of my patients that come in, I teach them, look for the gift of the day. Because we look for so much negative. What's the gift of the day? So when they come in, they know they got to tell me, what's the gift of the day or the gift of the week? What's something good and positive that happened? Because we have to train our mind to stay on the positive. Because what we focus on becomes bigger. So if I focus on, oh, Granny's not here, and my mama's not here, and before you know it, I'll be on the floor. Because they're not coming back.
Right.
But I still have to continue to live, and I might as well live with joy because it's not going to change, you
I
know?
think you need to repeat that because I don't think people understand it. When you said, you know, you have to find something that's, you know what I mean? Because again, like I said, most people are in this self-pity during the holidays. So I want you to at least repeat that again. Because I think they're making a choice, yes,
Yeah,
making a choice.
Making a choice to actually celebrate them versus just mourning them. There's so much more to them than their death. You know,
Yes.
what were the lessons? You know, what were the things that I remember my grandmother taking me fishing, and I found out I can't stand a wiggly worm killing a worm. I just couldn't do it.
You couldn't put it on that fishing thing.
I could not. I never went fishing again, you know. So I learned a lot of things from her, but she loved fried fish. So if I feel like I'm missing her, I will fry some fish. I will have my friends over, my friends that don't care whether the house is clean or not. Those friends that are close enough that don't judge you. Those are the people you want to keep around you, not the ones that put the pressure on you. You know, but making the choice to actually celebrate those people who have gone on versus just mourning and being sad and crying. What were the good things that they left you? What did they teach you? I did a podcast on Mother's Day a few years ago, and I had 5 women. We were going to talk about the lessons we learned from our mothers. And right before we went on, one woman said, Kathy, I don't know what to do. She said, my mother didn't teach me anything. She really wasn't a good mother. I said, oh, dear. Then the other lady said it. So 3 out of the 5 didn't have good experiences. I said, but you did learn something. You learned what not to do. What didn't you like? You became. Your mother wasn't present. You were always with your kids. Your mother always swore at you and was negative. You always speak positive to your kids. So we learn different things, even in the negative experiences. So choosing to focus on how can I celebrate the holiday without it being stressful.
Right. Oh, wow.
Have a potato bar, you know, have a soup bar.
something,
Do
huh?
something. Do something simple. Keep it simple, sweetie.
I do like that. Keep it simple. And then, you know, if, for our listeners, make one mindset shift. What would be one thing what would change your mindset during the holiday? What would you think would be the most important thing that you think a person needs to do to change their mindset? You kind of hit on it what you tell your patient when they come in, but what one mindset do you think, if you only have one thing to tell a person that they need to do during the holidays that would make them less stressful?
Start your day with gratitude. Start your day with what you're grateful for. Because we wake up and we're like, oh, I'm tired. Oh, I don't feel like this. I am just glad to be alive today. I get to see my loved ones. I get to go to work. I get to empower people. I get to see, I love Christmas lights. I get to go and buy Christmas lights. I'm just excited to have another day. And it is a mind shift. Because if we stay in the old mindset, we never get anything done, never any change.
So how do you handle guilt, though, of not doing a traditional holiday?
I've never considered that I had to have a traditional holiday. My mom used to barbecue turkeys. That is not a traditional thing, especially in the 70s. So she wasn't traditional, but it's okay to allow yourself to be who you are. And so if you decide LaShawn's going to do her Christmases, I have a friend, they travel every Christmas. They go away to experience new places. You know, we have a right to make choices against what the tradition is.
You say that like that's easy, though. I'm telling you, it's not easy.
If I tell you
It's not-
everything I said is not easy,
Yeah, none of this is
everything I
really
said has
easy
come to
for
the
the-
place through pain.
Yes.
and my own journey, and I'm not saying any of it is easy.
Right.
But I am saying if you want to be released from pressure, you got to be able to take the pressure to say no. So if you've been into people pleasing and codependency, it's going to be real hard. But when you get tired of trying to please people and it's still not good enough, one day you're going to say, you know what? I have spent years trying to please people, and all I get is negative complaint and criticism. From now on, I'm doing what I want to do.
It's easier said than done, too, though. I would say that, too.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Right.
But I'm saying when you get tired of
what's
people
gonna help me
pleasing,
push that step, though? What's gonna really say to me, LaShawn, because like I said, most people, there's not enough people that's talking positive. Like you said, there's enough negative. How am I really going to get to this place, and how? I guess the question would be how. Because, I mean, if you're listening, you say, yeah, get some self-care or maybe a book. But how do I really, because I would say certain communities don't believe in seeking outside help.
because we were told what goes on in this house, stay in this
Correct.
house,
So
and you get your
what's
butt
gonna-
beat.
Yeah, what's going to pull me there before I
Here-
hit that point of have to be committed or something?
Here's
You know
the
what I mean?
secret.
Yeah, what's the secret?
When you get sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired of family running you like you're crazy, of family not appreciating your efforts, of always being put in a box, always being cast down, always being talked about, always being treated like the black sheep, you no longer will care. You get to the point you're tired of trying to please people. It's not easy, but when you crash on the floor crying because your family didn't come because they mad at you, or somebody came and they talked about your cooking and all that majoring in the minors, when you get tired of that, you make decisions. I had to cut off some relatives. It was not easy. But what I did was the friends who had proven themselves to me, that was Aunt Deb, that was Aunt Cindy, that was Uncle Albert. I made a family, healthy, emotionally healthy family for my girls.
So basically what you're saying is that people got to learn to cut people off, right?
You have to learn to let them go.
You don't have to keep negative people.
You do not have to keep
And I think
negative
that's
people.
part of the problem is we tend to believe, because we're, especially women, we tend to believe it's our job to protect each other, our job to be the one who's always above all. And basically you're saying is cut them off, right?
Cut them off. Because what happens is you can have a sister who knows that you're the codependent one. She'll go out, blow her money on alcohol, drugs, or whatever, and then call you up, sis, I got a bill. I got to pay this electric bill. They're going to cut it off. And if you're codependent, okay, sis, how much? All I have is my water bill money, but I know you need your lights on. So, okay, how much is it? Codependency. You help somebody one time, it's a blessing. You help somebody twice, it's an expectation. You help them third time beyond, they're dependent. It's
And
a
they expect you to
dependency.
pay that bill.
They expect you to always
they
come
gonna always
through.
blow their money, right?
They're gonna,
That could be your kids,
they can fall
everybody.
back on you. Why would they have to keep their money for their bills when you're gonna do it? But you do have to get to the place where you cut them off. That's not easy, and it hurts. Every birthday, you may want to be back in place with them where you're catering to. Take care of you.
Because most people don't like to be disliked. Because that's where it sits at. It sits in a space where you think you're being disliked.
So here's the real book that will change your life.
Yes.
Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. And there's 4 to 6 pages in the middle of the book that she talks about how codependency manifests. You want to be liked by people. You feel like you're not liked by people. We all want to be liked by people. So we all have some level of codependency. But when codependency overlaps my life to the point that I can't even tell you what I like, I can't even tell you what colors. I have women that come in my office and they have taken care of people so much all of their life, they can't even tell you what's their favorite color. They don't have any hobbies. Their whole life has been spent on building other people, and they're depleted. When you get depleted, then you begin to make change. Don't let yourself get to that place, because working in the psych unit, I saw too many women come in where everybody had just taken, and nobody gave nothing back to them. And now, some of them never came back. Some of them worked their way back like my mom did, but some never came back, depleted.
And you just talking about ending up in a psych ward.
Yes.
Let's be honest, stress kills.
Certainly
And
kills.
it creates more health problems than anything.
Do
I
you
think
know-
people don't want to talk about that. You should
Yes.
step on that. What
Disease.
does stress does? Yes.
Almost every single disease is traced back to some emotion. Did you know that bitterness in your body causes cancer cells to rapidly multiply? So you get cancer? Anger in the body for 30 minutes begin to break your cells down for disease. How many people you know been angry for years? If you're angry because of things that happen to you, go to a rage room. I said, I call it the cheapest form of therapy. You go to Dollar Tree, you get 10 plates and a marker, and you write on the plates the things that hurt you the most, the things that hold you hostage mentally. And you find a brick wall in an abandoned building, easy to find, and you let it rip. Break those plates. It's been proven the sound of breaking glass help women to heal. It's like scrubbing your soul. I bust the windows out your car. That's a real thing. Because
Oh, that sounds real, huh?
that's real. It is.
relieves that
Scientifically,
stuff,
it
yeah.
relieves a lot of stuff on the inside of you that you never will relieve.
Because we do got what they call the room is the crash room. Maybe we need to go to the crash room, right, where you can break things.
When I went through my divorce, I took my youngest daughter to Baltimore for her birthday, and I arranged for her to go to the rage room. When we pulled up and she saw rage room, she said, "Oh no, Mom." And I said, "No, come on, this will be good for you. You know, it's a surprise for your birthday." I said, "Do it for your mama." I put the ace on the table. Do it for your mama. So they brought her a big TV, and they said, "You have to break the window, the screen with the sledgehammer." She broke the window, and something broke in her. I'd never seen her cry like that. She cried like I had died. So I went in and held her for a few minutes. She looked up. She said, "I'm ready." When she finished, that TV was the size of little chiclets. The chick was angry.
Wow.
Right. Really angry. They started bringing things for her to smash. When we came out, she said, "I'm so glad you did that." She said, I didn't know I was that angry. And I mean, literally her muscles for 2 weeks were sore because it was so much because it goes into our body.
Right.
You know, grief shows up in our chest and give us chest pains and it hurts. You know, overthinking affects your pancreas and your liver. You know, so these are things that we have to get out. Anger can lodge in your lower back. So it affects us, our emotions affect us, and we have to be conscious enough to say, I'm not going to let somebody kill me or expectations kill me.
I think that's what people don't realize is that, well, like we said, because you didn't finish on this, I think I might have cut you off. We were talking about the things that stress do to the
Yes.
body. Like you said, the cancer, like high blood pressure. So,
Increased blood sugars.
yes. So all these things you end up thinking, it's mostly because of stress.
Exactly.
I'm taking all this medication to create more problems instead of just releasing what's really inside of me. Of saying, sometimes it's just a matter of saying no.
Saying no.
And then,
Or sometimes it's a matter of confronting people who hurt you in the past.
yes. And let's talk about that, because if you confront them, you got to accept what you're willing to accept, right? So when you confront them and you let it go, right?
You should let it go. However, there are people who have done things to people and they're no longer here. So oftentimes you'll hear therapists talk about writing a letter. So I have people write a letter, put it on a shelf for a few days, put it in an envelope, seal it up, and then I have them bring it in the office. Well, they think I'm going to read it. No. They come in, they read it, because when you hear yourself out loud addressing it, it releases some of it on the inside. And then we go outside and we burn it up. Because things that are burnt up don't come back together. Or you can bury it. Things you bury don't come back up. Or you can shred it. They don't come back together. Or you can use what we call the empty chair method. You pretend that person is in the chair and you say everything you ever wanted to say to them. And that's the way of getting it out without involving the person. Because oftentimes if you confront them and they deny it, then now you're more mad than you were in the beginning.
Interesting. So that's a good advice. Because I know one of our things says, like, self-care when you no extra time, but like you said, you just got to find that time. You just got to do it, right?
You make the time. I'm valuable enough that I will cancel out an appointment because today I need to stay in the bed a little longer because I'm tired. I need to listen to me. And I tell my patients, if I go down, I'm not here for you and anybody else. I take vacations. And I mean, I will take vacations. I like to drive. I'll take a vacation and I'll drive to Florida and stay there a few days. And they know if they're in crisis, they can text me. And I will coach them through in text on how to get through it. you know.
Do you know most of the people in the UAW, even though we have negotiated holidays, most of us, or vacation time, they said over 75% of us do not take vacation time.
Really?
75% of UAW members do not use their vacation time. Do not take annual vacations.
I wonder, is that because they feel like they don't deserve it, or they're just gonna stay home, don't want to?
No,
That would be interesting to find out
more,
why.
It may be more because we're, like I said, we're trying to do all the things. Because I believe sometimes people play catch up, or you think you got to keep working. And I think even during the holidays, because I'm expectation of buying these expensive gifts that my kids not. I actually just told my niece this holiday we're doing a new tradition. It's only she gets stocks, no gifts, no nothing. She gets a stock. I told her that no
Exactly.
more are we buying things that you don't need. I'm trying to build generational wealth with her. But I think that our members, and they feel the need to give these things to the kids because they're not at home. And sometimes, a lot of time, we're not at home. We tend to overcompensate for that too.
Right.
So that means we got to work. But we're not taking vacations. I mean, if the jobs say you can work during the holidays, people are working during these holidays because it's double time, triple time, and all this stuff. But what I hear from you is like, we need to be taking vacation. We got to do
Yes.
some time to break away
Michigan
from this.
is wonderful, even for a 1 or 2 day vacation. Go up to Traverse City. Go up to Mackinac Island. Take your children for the experiences and make the memories. Because all they're going to remember, all mom did, all they did was ever work. Every Christmas, we were out of school. All we had was our games at home because all they did was work. And not, man, you know what? I remember every Christmas we went over into Canada and we made snowmen and we made snow angels. And even though we could see Detroit from across the those are the memories. Because mom and dad being gone on a time teaches them, the presence of your parent. Either I'm going to be the parent that I didn't have, or I'm going to be the same parent that I had. Either I repeat the cycle or I change the cycle. And so being conscious to say, I'm going to do something different. It's my niece and her husband, they no longer do birthday parties. They take the kids on a trip. They take them on a trip, and any money that's given to them, they put into an account because they don't want them to get so used to all these gifts, and they want to build generational wealth and teach them about saving.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Her kids are 4 months and 2 years old.
Oh, really? You know what I did do to my son? I will say that if he's probably listening. For 3 years, I gave him the same gift and just rewrapped it. I learned that he didn't know the difference. All he wanted to do was unwrap some boxes.
Unwrap the
He
presents.
actually had more fun, and it's a true statement. They had more fun playing with the boxes than he did with the toys. Until he realized
Exactly.
it took him a little while until he went to school. But yeah, up until he was like 3. I
My
didn't
daughter
get
was happy
nothing.
with a wooden spoon in a pot
Yes,
for her
yes,
first few years.
yes.
Why would I go spend a lot of money and the child happy with a pot and a spoon? Now, I did get her a drum eventually, but keeping it simple.
Keeping it simple.
And that keeps the stress off of us.
Yes. Dang. I think we have one more question. Or we have any more questions online, Shantae?
I think it's grief.
Grief. Yes,
So-
we definitely want to talk about grief.
So when it comes to grief, there's 2 things about grief that we don't talk about, and one is compounded grief. So with compounded grief, you can have the loss of your father, and then maybe you lost an auntie, and then maybe you lost a cousin. And then the neighbor can lose their dog, and it will trigger the biggest reaction out of you in grief because you have all these layers of grief that have not resolved. And so that's compounded grief. Then we also have complicated grief. So complicated grief is if my mother died and we were fighting, we were feuding, we had a disagreement, and I didn't get a chance to reconcile that. And so that creates a whole nother type of grief because now you have guilt and now you have all the woulda, shoulda, couldas, and you can't undo it because it's too late. So those are 2 different types of grief to be aware of, and trying to get resolution, making sure to let yourself go through the whole grief process for each death, because it's a process for every single one of them. The other thing is that the reaction to grief. So sometimes as you go along, grief is like a pebble in the ocean, you barely feel it. Sometimes it's like a boulder. Sometimes it's like a tropical storm. Sometimes it's like a hurricane, but there are days where it's like a tsunami. And so just know that tsunami days are coming and we get triggers. And triggers are sneaky because they're unseen. So if someone wears the cologne that your dad wore and comes by you, you may go to a place and not even know what triggered it. Or if someone looks similar to a person that passed away, it's a face stigma. You see their face and it's like, ugh, because you don't never know where those are coming up. So being aware that triggers are going to come up, and it's okay to talk to yourself and answer yourself. Because sometimes we have to coach ourselves through these triggering moments.
So I got one last question about the final, but I want to ask you is this. So how do people recognize people in need and making sure we go and talk to those people?
So
And making sure they get the help. Because I'm going to be honest, all we talked about tonight, the holidays are very stressful. And
Yes.
a lot of people don't talk about it and you don't know. So it's like, could you give us some signs of noticing people and how do the people help those people?
we
before
should
close up?
always keep our pulse on our family members and friends' wrist. So if you see your friend who is always outgoing and up, and they're quiet, and they're secluding themselves, and they're not talking to people, they're not engaging in normal activities, they're crying all the time, maybe they're mean and snappy or going off. When you see them come out of character and it's more than 2 weeks, that's the time to be concerned. And it's okay to reach out for them. If they're secluded, they're not talking to anybody, and you're wondering if they're in jeopardy, you can ask for a welfare check at their house. But making sure to watch our friends and know them. Because when you see those changes, especially around this time, ask them, friend, what can I do to help you? You know, even when someone passed away, do you want me to come sit with you? Do you want to get out of the house? Do you want me to bring food over? Do you want me to give you money? How can I help you? Not what I think they need. What can I really do to help you? Sometimes it's being present and being quiet, because they don't want to hear the cliches. They're in a better place. How you know? You know, or they're not suffering anymore. Okay, oh, you're going to be okay. Just don't say nothing, because sometimes the things you say cause more damage.
Right. So you hear that out there. If you see your family and friends in need, I will say this, no matter if they say they okay, still go and check on them. Still go and bring that plate over. Still go over there and call them, because again, grief doesn't know grief, as you stated. It could be a pebble, it could be a boulder. But still, I would say this to anybody that's listening. Like she said, if you see 2 weeks of change, even if it's not, check on each other, because you never know what someone's going through, and they can't break the cycle sometimes. And sometimes that's what it takes to have a friend or anybody. So know that mental health is real and it's out there, and sometimes people can't identify it. But if your friend or someone you know is acting different, no matter even they say, I'm okay, they not okay. If you know they not okay, check on them. We thank you for listening to us tonight, and hopefully we help you for the holidays during this stressful time. And I'm going to turn it over to you if you have one last thing to say before we go off the air.
If you feel like someone is suicidal, encourage them to call 988. That's the suicidal hotline. Don't be afraid to reach out and do support groups and call lines. You have local lines that you can call, and someone's there willing to listen to you and talk you through. If you feel like you're in danger, you probably are. Don't be afraid to get help.
Thank you.